So Mr. Kim finally, ties him up after that whole like reveal of the Morse code thing. He gets up into the basement and tries to sneak out. They think everyone's like upstairs.
Yeah.
And as they're doing that, they run back downstairs because the son still wants to camp and wants to go outside and teepee. And Mr. and Mrs. Kim Park, decide to just sleep on the couch where.
And then we're at this point, Mr. Kim, Ki-jung, and Ki-woo are all underneath the coffee table in front of the couch.
That was one of the greatest scene of this whole movie.
Right, not just the coffee table. I think Mr. Kim specifically was under the couch, and one other person was under the couch that they're sleeping in. So you get a visual of another indication of who's on higher ground than the other. So he's super consistent with like that visual motif, but
Constantly with the up and down.
But this is a key and crucial scene, right? Because it reveals a couple things. One, it does kind of is endearing, the walkie-talkie back and forth between Mr. Kim and the son. So there's some like nice quality going on there.
Yeah.
And then there was this whole sexual scene, right? Where she's like, we can't do this. And Mr. Kim is grabbing her boob. And then she's like, well, just do a counterclockwise or clockwise or something like that.
Gives some instructions.
Like, yeah, exactly. And then starts yelling out like, I want you to get me drugs or something like that. I know some passionate throw. She mentions that she wants drugs.
Mr. Kim is Mr. Park was like, it'd be really hot if you put the underwear we found out.
Yeah. Well, if you want me to do that, go buy me drugs. So it was just it was showing that it was quite revealing, especially like to I imagine Mr. Kim who's underneath the sofa, and they mentioned something again touching upon like Mr. Kim never crosses the line. That's a good thing, except for his smell. His smell crosses the line.
Yeah.
Yes.
So all of those things are important revelations.
Yeah, that was sad. Like, on this particular shot, I remember the exact same feeling I had like in the cinema. I was so like shivering because of all the excitement of like previous scenes that we have just watched.
Yeah.
And it was kind of also funny at the same time because of like this weird sex comment about the nipple thingy. And when they talk about the smell of Mr. Kim's, it was like really sad. It just like
they
sad.
compared it to a dirty rag. That was one example, and because they were trying to say, what does it smell like? And the wife
Is it when they brought up the smell from riding the subway?
Right, because I think someone no. So it starts off. So it starts off here. It goes. They smell something, right? And it smells like Mr. Kim because Mr. Kim is actually there underneath the sofa. And he starts explaining that what does cross the line is his smell, and it smells like something he can't quite pinpoint. And Mrs. Park is like, what, like an old man? I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, no, like a dirty rag. And he might have said one more thing that's like not a favorable smell that anyone would want. And then mentions, no, it kind of smells like the subway smell. I never ride the subway. And it shows like the real feelings about like the different class, right? The lower class. Okay, so let's see. So they do finally have a window of opportunity and finally escape out of the house, out of the garage, walking downhill. And then what happens?
And then the rain.
So it's raining already, but as they get lower and lower and closer and closer and lower and lower,
they keep
and closer
descending.
and closer to where they actually live, there's a huge flood. Right,
and their house is almost entirely flooded.
But luckily, these are responsible family, and they closed the window, right?
No, they did not close the windows.
So that's why all their house was filled with water, and all of our furniture were like floating on the surface of water.
Yeah, so they were just grabbing things that they could, and then there was the great scene where Ki-jung was sitting on top of the toilet with the lid closed, and there was just like shit spewing out.
Yeah, almost a literal, shit hitting the fan moment, just with it spewing. out uncontrollably. What does Ki Woo decide to save?
The Scholar's
Stone.
Rock.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, yeah, it's your turn. But I just want to like again adore the scene with the toilet. Like it
Yeah,
was
the
just
scene
like
with-
so touching because we have just watched like how a poor family got like bad, basically bad remarks from a rich family that they think that they are smelly, and now we are like
No.
following them to their
In
stairs
sewage
and
water.
and
covered in
earlier-
shit.
Earlier, Ki Jung was taking this luxurious bath, and then she ends up sitting on like on top
that's
of
nice.
the toilet lid
Yeah, that's
with
very
all the
good.
sewage coming out.
I didn't like pay attention to that. That's a good thing that you saw that and now you saw this.
Yeah,
It's just like
definitely.
quite a something.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's hard to believe that all happened in one night.
Yeah, but it just, the escalation and,
Yeah.
no coincidence that, the most visually sort of like crazy thing going on, happens after the whole introduction of like the moon situation with the, fallout shelter.
Yeah.
So he's keeping things going forward. And then they basically have to, because of this flood, stay at some like sort of gymnasium or something with like hundreds, it looks like, other
Yeah,
people.
it was so crowded.
And tell me about like the poignancy of the interaction between
That was such
Ki
good
Woo and Mr. Kim, father and son, while they're lying down.
Yeah, 'cause they're asking Kiwoo was like, Dad, what's the plan? What are we gonna do like with all of this that happened tonight? And his dad just, because it's really like heartbreaking, I think. Talk about like, he's like, oh, don't worry, I have a plan. But he's like, but the best plan is having no plan because plans always go awry.
I think earlier we've heard them while they were like walking back to their house, walking down the hills to their house. The father said that, oh, I have a plan, don't worry. But when they were in the gymnasium, he says that my plan is having no plan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
because
the best
basically what he's telling his son is don't dream. He's like, don't make a plan because plans never work out. He's basically telling his own flesh and blood son, who still has his whole future ahead of him, don't dream. You're just going to be disappointed. And that,
Yeah.
that was super sad.
Yeah, that just really underlines the pessimistic feeling of this movie.
Yeah, and when you're living in poverty, it's kind of easy to have a defeatist sort of mentality. So that's, not at all surprising.
And I feel like that really added to his character a lot. Mr. Kim's.
Definitely. I mean, you can kind of see in his face, and great acting too. Like, they deserved some nods here.
So good.
But
Yeah.
Mr. Kim's face, you could see like defeat in his eyes. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Ask these people.
Yeah, hit that button. We want to hear from you.
It's so easy. And you will not get disappointed.
Yes.
Please cut that last part.